sorry, I can't wear a mask and glasses at the same time. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for visiting South Cove County Park. I must start off with the thanks that got us here today. Almost 8 years ago, on my first weekend here at South Cove, I was approached by one of the Hall descendants and asked, when was I going to do something with the cemetery? I asked them, is there a cemetery here? Fast forward, after looking at the park condition, I knew there was a lot of infrastructure that had to be addressed first before we can even imagine delving into the history of the park. During that time, we had so many people interested in the story of the cemetery. Eventually, now in 2020, out of all the years that it could be, and many emails and conversations with Hall family descendants, we now have a cemetery marked and all the accurate information that we could have gotten. I'd like to thank the Hall family for their patience and their trust in me that we would eventually get to this point. Second, I'd like to thank Duke Energy. When we got to this point, we knew we did not know where the graves were. We had stones erected in a small fenced-in area that was 32 feet by 32 feet. But there was about 50 stones in there. We knew that 50 people could not be buried in that small of an area. Yep. We had depressions on the outside of the cemetery and other field stones that we were finding. I contacted South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, Archaeology Division, and they advised that we needed ground-penetrating radar to locate the graves. So I started looking and scratching my head and saying, how is a small park on a small budget going to be able to afford that? I so happened to call Duke Energy and ask if they had a small grant that would help us with partial of the funding. And they stepped up above and beyond and sent out their crew that they hire for ground penetrating and probing radar. They paid for the whole thing. And to this date, we have located 46 graves. It's way bigger and way more people than we thought. We originally thought there was about 6 or 8 in there. So I'd like to thank Alan and Christy. We couldn't have done a lot of things out of here without your help. Next, I must thank the county, Phil Shirley, the director of PRT, and the administrator, Amanda Brock, and all the county council members. It has been a lot of improvements over the last 8 years. I went, and they backed us completely. I went back to Phil earlier in the spring and told him that we were starting to work on the cemetery, and instead of getting a Parks and Recreation Tourism intern, which we normally do, I needed an archaeology intern. And he approved it without a bat of an eye. We contacted Clemson University, and they lined us up with Grace Lockett, who unfortunately can't be with us here today. She's a recent grad of archaeology and is now getting her master's. She had a vast amount of field experience in graveyards. She came out and recorded every field stone. Ones that were marking graves, ones that weren't. Any markings on those stones were all recorded. Photographs, sketches, and so on. I've got folders this big. She then took all the headstones and footstones and put them back out at the graves, in place, correctly. And of course, the only one in the right place. While she was digging, she found this gravestone. She immediately called me. And I went out there and we flipped it over, and it had Jesse Hall's initials on it. We could have never imagined the only stone not to be moved over 200 years was his stone. Never thought that we would locate his grave. But it is today. And she did an amazing job in her internship and was tremendous help to finding out our park history and erecting the stones and putting the graveyard where it needed to be. I'd also like to thank SAR and DAR on all their efforts to put this together today to honor such a hero. Also, all the help they've given with the history of Jesse and the property, especially Dave Damaris back there at the video tent. He helped me spearhead this project. Also, the Oconee County History Museum, Leslie and Jennifer right over there. So much research, so many things they've done out here at this park. All the deeds, art, newspaper articles, documents, everything. We could not thank them enough. Last but not least, we are here to honor and celebrate a hero. But I have a few heroes that are still at the park today. My staff. None of this would be possible without their long, strenuous hours that they have put in out here. They unselfishly have put in a lot of tears, sweat, and a little blood into every project. We have seen an almost 275% increase in visitation and park revenues in the last 8 years. Unbelievable. The staff just keeps chugging along. I couldn't ask for a better crew. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, as I always do, but if you've had any hand in this project in any way, thank you. It has been a great success. In conclusion, we are out here on a special day to honor a special person. Everyone look around, it's 2020. What a year. We can't imagine what we've had to go through this year. Social distancing, these masks, driving us crazy, giving me bad beer day to every day. Can't put up my handlebars anymore. But let's go back a few moments to the time where a country did not have the freedoms that we have today. You cannot voice your opinion on what side of the government you believed in. Election day is coming up. We get to vote. Back then, whoever was king was king. They didn't even have computers or cell phones or tablets where you were connected to the world every second of the day. Heck, they didn't even have electricity. They were brave men that stood up and said enough was enough. They wanted to be free. They wanted their children, their grandchildren, and even our generation today to be free. They took up old muskets. They put what they had on their backs and started marching to knowing that they most likely would never see their home again. Think about Jesse, just a simple farmer. He wanted his freedom. He fought in 7 battles, marched over 1,500 miles. I can't even walk to the end of the causeway. I couldn't even imagine walking 1,500 miles. Today, we just get in our car and drive it. But it would have taken him weeks and months to get where he was going. I did a little bit of research, and some of the legs of his journey were 300 miles long. With the cannons and the soldiers, it would have taken 5 to 8 weeks to reach their destination if the weather was good. We can't fathom the burdens Jesse faced during the years of his service. He was tired, starvation. Most of the time they were gathered and hunted their food along their way. The gory battles he had to see, the days without sleep, poverty, and so on. But I will tell you, as I stand here today on this ground, this free ground, as a veteran of the armed forces, a retired police officer, and now the manager of this park, I am glad for his service and all the others that fought and died for this country. I can say today is the day that we truly honor a hero.